Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to a very cold January in the UK. Today I'm going to be talking about something a little bit different. I'm going to be talking about should your child go to university. And you're probably looking at this thinking, 1 minute this guy's walking through theme parks in Florida, the next minute he's talking about wood burners, the next minute he's talking about bikes, and now he's talking about should my kid go to university. Well, this channel is called Michael Does Stuffs, and I'm just trying to find my thing on YouTube. And if I think of something that I think might actually help people or something that's going on in my life, I'll put it on here because it might help people. For a bit of context, my son is going through this kind of at the moment where he's having to come to the end of his kind of secondary school and make these choices about should I go to university, what college course should I do? And we're kind of going through this at the moment, but also for me personally, I do actually have a master's degree, but I didn't go down a traditional route to get that. But also for context, I hold a reasonably senior position in a large multinational company. I'm not at the CEO level, I'm just a couple of levels down from the board. So I do hire a lot of people, and I can hopefully give some insight on the kind of things that I look for when I hire people, and whether a university degree is important or isn't. Okay, so this is mainly going to focus on going to university in the UK. I realise on this channel I've got a few people that watch me from the States, so I'll kind of compare a little bit to that at the beginning, but it's mainly going to focus on going to university in the UK. So, in the UK, you go to school, you stay in school until you're 16, you do your GCSEs, and then after that you leave and you can go to college, what we call college. You go there for a couple of years, and then after that you go to university. This is slightly different to, say, the US system or the Australian system, where you basically stay in high school until you're 18 and then you go to college in the US or university in Australia, and after that you then it's basically your university. So in the UK it's school till 16, then you go to college, then you go to university. Now, it used to be the case in the UK that you could actually just leave school at 16 and get a job. You could go and get a job in McDonald's, in a shop, or whatever you wanted to do. That has now changed. That changed a few years ago. You've got to stay in some form of education until you're 18. That doesn't mean to say that you can't go and get a job straight out of school, but you need to stay in some form of education once you've come out of school. Okay, so once you get out of secondary school, you're 16 years old. You can either go with an apprenticeship or you can go down the head towards the university route. To do that, really, you've got to go into college. Once you get into college, you have a couple of choices at that point. You can do traditional A levels, which is much more traditional. You can do things like BTECs and HNCs, and you can now do this thing which is called T levels. They are actually going to be retiring BTECs, and they're going to just be replacing them with these things called T levels, which I think are technical levels, I think it stands for, which are basically what we'll end up with is A levels and T levels, and it makes it much more simple. With T levels, it's kind of more focused on the type of jobs that you would do if you were going to do a T level. It would be like mechanics or construction or something that's kind of like this hands-on type thing. That's the more typical things that you see with T levels, and then A levels just tends to be the more kind of traditional things like science and maths and those types of things. What you will find when you want to go to university, you can get into university with both T levels and A levels, but in my view it's probably slightly more straightforward to get into university if you've got A levels, because I still think that university is a bit more traditional. If you want to get into one of the Russell Group universities, which is the Oxfords, the Cambridges, the big universities like this, then I think you have to have A levels. I don't think they'll accept T levels to get into one of those big universities if that's important to you. So, all being well, you get through secondary school, you do really well, you go into college, you select A levels. Typically you'll select sort of like 3 or 4 A levels. You get through that, hopefully you get the grades you need. In the last year of doing your A levels, you start to look at which universities do I want to go to, and you start to apply for them. Once you kind of go through that application process, you'll be given what's called a kind of conditional offer, and that offer is conditional on you getting certain grades, and then if you achieve those grades, then you get an actual a non-conditional offer, which basically means you're in the university. If you don't achieve your grades, you go into this thing which is kind of like called clearing, which I imagine is a massively chaotic time for the students, the universities and everything, trying to work out who has the right grades, who's going to get in where. So if you don't quite get your grades, it might still be the case that you get into your first choice university because they're not very full. It's not that popular of a class, and you can still get in. If you don't get your grades, it might be that you go into your second choice university or your third choice university, whatever. But before you kind of get to that point, you need to kind of decide on which university you're going to go to and how you're going to finance it. Now, if you live in England, we have to pay for our university fees. If you live in Scotland, you get your university fees paid for. And this is one of those bonkers things about living in the United Kingdom, where in one part of the United Kingdom it's free and in another part it isn't. It's like being in Wales. They get all their prescriptions paid for. Unfortunately, if you're English, you get the real bad end of the deal, where we have to pay for all of our medical prescriptions, we have to pay for our university fees, and we are the main contributor to the United Kingdom's finances, but somehow we have to subsidise everyone else. I'm not sure it's fair, but there it is. Let's not make this a political discussion. I will just touch on one more thing that's political though, and that was this crazy decision that the government made a few years ago to cap the fees that universities can charge. And they basically said universities are allowed to charge a maximum of £9,000 per year for tuition. And what they said is you can only charge that if you're one of the best universities. So this put the universities in a difficult spot, because if they didn't charge £9,000, they were basically saying they weren't very good. So every university out there then started charging £9,000 per year for the tuition. It's a 3-year course typically, so it's £9,000 per year. Now, this created a real problem because those fees for those universities, they used to be quite mixed, and they were more around sort of £3,500–4,000 a year, and now every university charges £9,000 per year, no matter if they're good, bad, or ugly. So I just think that's another one of those government decisions where they went in with the right intentions, trying to protect people, but actually they made the whole situation worse. It's like in the property market when they decide to remove the cap for stamp duty, and then house prices just rocket up, and people think they're making a saving on stamp duty when actually they're just their house is now costing them 10–20% more than it would have done. But anyway, I said this wouldn't get political, and I'm kind of going down a political rabbit hole here, and that's not the intention. This is to talk about university and whether your child should go there. Now, I think when I get onto that kind of subject of should your child go there, a lot of this does depend on the child. What I would avoid doing is having the child going there because they think they should go to university. If they're not really interested in the subject and they just end up going there because it's the thing to do, I would say that would be wasted. And there's a lot of kind of people talking, a lot of controversy about wasted degrees, where people just go and do degrees for the sake of doing a degree, and it's on some useless subject that is not going to add any value when they go out into the real world, and it feels like a bit of a wasted 3 years. So I would avoid that. I would say if your child is really passionate about a particular area they want to research and study, like say they're really into a specific area of science or maths or art or something like that, then university could be great for them, because they're going to go there, they're going to do something they're really interested in, and they're going to flourish. So, a lot of children don't have that passion and they're not interested in that, and they just want to get out there and earn some money. And I think that's where it's kind of wasted when those children go there, because often they'll go there, they'll drop out, or they'll go there, after a year they'll say, actually this is rubbish, I'm going to do a different course, and they just end up being a kind of year behind. So try to think about, the key thing is to think about, is it right for your child to do it? And every child is different, and every parent will make different decisions. This is not a cheap thing that you have to that you do when you want to go to university. You've got to pay for those fees. This is where it's slightly different to the US system, where the college system in the US is crazy expensive, but the $9,000 is for the tuition fees. Then you've got to pay for books, you've got to pay for accommodation, you've got to pay for food, you've got to pay for everything else. So the $9,000 is just really the start of the cost when you go to university. And often the children, they get these kind of student loans, and you take out the student loan, you have it for a period. Once you've earned a certain amount of money, I think it's around about £26,000, something like that, you then have to start paying it back. So you don't have to start paying it back straight away. And I've actually seen some examples of people that just keep doing university courses. They just stay in academia forever and never actually pay back these loans. So perhaps you could do that, spend your whole life in university. But I think, for children, like I said, it's really a case of, are they really interested in it? Are they interested in going out and getting a job? Are they interested in making money? And that will determine it. Right, I do want to talk about something that's probably lesser known to many people, and that is what's called a level 5 apprenticeship. Now, with a level 5 apprenticeship, you go through school, do GCSEs, you go through college, and then when you get to 18, you go into a workplace and you get a job, a full-time job. But within that job, you also do a degree. So that company is paying you wages, full-time wage. They're paying for your university, so you don't have that huge cost and huge amount of debt that you're going to get from that. And they're also giving you the opportunity to get work experience. Now, as an employer, if I'm looking to employ someone in my team and I see someone that's come to me and they've got a degree, they've got 3 years worth of work experience, and they've shown to me that they've got a level of commitment that meant that they went straight out there into the workplace, got a whole bunch of work experience, plus they got the degree, I'm looking at that person thinking, wow, what a commitment, what a great person. I think you're someone who can immediately add value to my team because you've got loads of skills, but you're also someone who's shown a serious level of commitment to wanting to succeed. So that's really great. I'd say the only downside to that is that you do find that with people that actually go down the university route, they tend to be quite independent, because a lot of those kids, they leave home and they go to somewhere, miles away from their home, and they're having to kind of fend for themselves in the real world. So I think, that in itself is impressive thing to do. So I wouldn't completely discount someone who's just been down the university route, but if you don't go down the university route as a kid, then you kind of lose out on that whole university life of like partying and learning valuable lessons about things, learning life lessons. So you kind of miss out on that. So again, I think it really depends on the kid. If you've got a kid that perhaps doesn't really want to go down the whole university route, they want to get out there and earn money, they want to get work experience, but also want a degree, I think the level 5 apprenticeship is a great thing. However, there's not many of them about. That's the downside. Hopefully they're becoming more popular. You're starting to see some of the big companies do it now, the big 4 accountancy firms, and I think that's a really good route to potentially go down. Okay, so to briefly summarise, you go to secondary school, you get GCSEs, come out of secondary school. At that point, you can either take on an apprenticeship, right, where you'll do like probably T-levels alongside it, or you can go to college and you can do T-levels, and then they're the kind of ideal jobs for mechanics, construction, those kind of hands-on jobs. If you don't want to do that, then you can do traditional A-levels, which is your kind of like science, your maths, your things like that. Once you've got through that, which is 2 years, you then say, okay, do I want to go to university, or do I want to go out into the world and get a job, or do I want to do one of these kind of level 5 apprenticeships? So what I would say is that university is not as important as it used to be. So if you don't do it, you can still do okay without having it. And I spoke about myself, I didn't go down the traditional route. I do have a master's degree, but I did that through my employer. And they financed it, and I don't have any student debt. So that's worked really well for me, and it's something that if you get a really supportive employer, they will support you through that because they get to keep you. And if you're a good employee and they want to keep you, then they're much more likely to do these things. So what I would say is we're very fortunate that we live in a world where there's many options for you to choose from, and pick the one that's right for you. But I think there's loads of options out there, and I'm babbling on. I don't know what I'm talking about. Right. Okay, so one more thing I just want to mention, and that is if you kind of work really hard and you get kind of through university, it's really hard to get a job. And even if you kind of like you work really, really hard, there's no guarantee that you're going to make big money. There are some people out there that will become CEOs and CFOs and they earn a lot of money, but those jobs are quite few and far between. So you have to work really hard to get those, and you have to have quite a lot of luck. You have to be in the right place at the right time, and they don't come along for everyone, and really not everyone is cut out to do it anyway. So What I will say is one of the big benefits that youngsters have got these days is they've got this whole kind of platform like YouTube or social media where they can actually learn about how to make money outside of work. And you will not become wealthy while you're working for an employer. You'll do okay and you'll live quite a good life, but you won't become really wealthy. And I think social media is both good and bad, but I think this is one of the areas where it's actually really good. You are going into this world and you're going to get a job. It's brilliant to get a job and brilliant to have that stable income, but start to think about how else you're going to kind of build your kind of wealth outside of that. And I know this is starting to sound like another one of those YouTube wealth building videos, and I really don't know enough about it to be able to be an expert on it. There's loads of other YouTubers out there to do that. But from what I've seen is you're not going to make it hugely wealthy, and I realise I'm sounding a bit disappointing here, but the cost of houses is ridiculous, the cost of everything is ridiculous, and you're going to need to have that kind of side hustle of investing. You're going to need to have a secondary kind of job in the background that's going on. You need to start buying houses and renting them out, or whatever it is that makes sense. But start to think about that when you're considering these things. When you're in university, start to think about ideas, problems that you've faced as you go through life, to kind of go, actually I could fix that problem if I did this, and that would probably lead me to making some money. Okay, so just to finish up, the most important thing to do is to pick something you like. Pick a university course you like, pick a college course that you like, because if you get on it and you don't like it, it's going to be a lot harder. If you're doing something you enjoy, it's a lot easier. And it's the same goes when you go out there and get a job. Pick a job or a career that you like, because even if it doesn't really pay you that much, you're going to have to be doing this for the rest of your life. So you're going to get pretty bored and fed up very quickly if it's something that you don't enjoy. So anyway, hopefully that was useful. Thanks for listening. See you soon.